I have Chuck McCarthy from Yuułuʔił̔ath First Nation. I attended a residential school back in '67. I think I went there for, I can't remember, it was 3 to 4 years before I went boarding out. But I always remember, the first initial walk up the steps and into the entrance before you get sort of dropped off there, and then you go into Mr. Anders, and he was the principal of the school, administrator, whatever you want to call him at the time. And then you go in and you're assigned a dorm. People come down, guide you towards your dorm. It was a very emotional time for me at that time because you're separated from your family. Your siblings are going one way, your sister's going one way, your brother's going up to a different dorm. So there's no family unit anymore. Only time that you actually probably will. You don't know when's the next time you're going to see them. So all that's going through your mind. And then so I get up, I go up to dorm, I think it's 1 and 2. Mr. Plint was, I think everybody knows who Plint was from today's media coverage of everything that went on in the residential school. First night there, I can remember a lot of these things specifically because of the different things that you don't forget. Throughout, even though that you're about 11, 12 years old. Was lights out at a certain time, lights out, and half hour later, the supervisor would come in, go to one bunk or whatever, and I think it was always the same bunk, or whatever. Then we'd leave. Half hour later or something, that kid would walk through the door out into the hallway, and then they just left up. At that time, we didn't really know what was going on, but he sort of figured something was strange because the washrooms were within your, dorm 1 and 2. They were in between us. So. And that went on, and then the routine, you get up early, go down, have your breakfast, which consisted of, residential type of, institutional type of food, I guess, I don't know, just mush or whatever that was real stuck together. It was cream of wheat or that type of thing that was just really solid, right? And you had to sort of water it down to, make it edible. But I think everything was sort of structured in an institutional type of manner where everything, you're here at this time, you're at that time. There was nothing else other than you could play out for a little while, and that was the time that I seen my sister. They were over on the other side or whatever. And then you could sort of try to see where they are and have a conversation, see how they're doing. And then my little brother was upstairs, and they had different times when they were allowed out. So made a few friends through the dorm 1 and 2, but a lot of it was the discipline that was handed out by Mr. Plint at that time was quite. I don't even know what the words to put it in. It was more fear mongering amongst the student. If you did something wrong, you were always in fear of that you were going to get a strap. But a strap wasn't a strap. It was actually something that Mr. Plint at the time created himself. It was called the Peacemaker, which was like about a 3.5 foot fir plank that was about 3.5 inches across, and with the handle made on it, and it was about 3/4 inch thick. But on the end there, it was they had drilled a bunch of holes. Like it looked like there was there was hundreds of holes on it, and that was, I guess, my intention was to inflict more pain on the people that were on the receiving end of that. I remember one time there was I think there were six students that were being disciplined. I think they might have been 12, 13-year-old, because that's I think 13 was the oldest that was in that dorm maybe. And then they were all lined up. We were all sort of assembled below the TV stand. Everybody was standing around while these 6 students, pulled their pants down, and we were forced to watch while they were meticulous. It went from one person gave him 2 or 3 whacks, and the screaming that went on from there to the next student. I mean, you could see the effect of, the so-called peacemaker as it progressed down the line, and the fear that was, and that's the type of discipline that we had. I mean, when, so like I said, from 11 to 13 years old, which was, really new to me. And then, some of the things that we did, back, there was different things too that was actually carried out from the students that were in there, where, you would blanket somebody that got us into trouble, and then they were targeted at that time too. They were just blanketing everybody, just took their turn at inflicting some sort of pain on the person because, they caused such a, discipline from Mr. Plinth. So that went on for a number of years. You knew that something was actually wrong, because this abuse went on for all the time that I was in those dorms. So, and I think a few of my friends that I made through that process. They asked me why I didn't go to there when they dismantled the main building, and I just didn't have that ability to relive that part of my life. And I think even to this day, when I went to a graduation at I can't remember, was it in the news there, Satsaleum or whatever, one of my kids was graduating through there. But as I went in through the entrance door, it was one of those things that just sort of creeps up on you, makes the hair out of the back of your neck just stand up, and it's like deja vu. You're walking through that whole process again, and it's you don't think of 40 years ago that these things have the effects, but they do. To this day, things trigger different areas of the thought process, and it's like all of a sudden you're living back in those days. Even like the residential school, when in Kamloops, when they found those children, just the emotions just got run away, and you just think back, and it's just one of those things that you can't sort of, maybe if you talk about it with psychiatrists, go over and over and stuff like that, you might have the ability to move forward. But that's one of the things that maybe I need to do is to move past all those memories that I've had of my brothers. They went to residential school, Christie, which is a whole different, place, but similar abuse. My sister, and I think about, alcoholism through my brothers, and drug addictions, and everything that went on in their younger lives. I think when I realized that they went through a lot of that hurt, and never ever talking about it, or the ability to talk about it with anybody. So one of the things for me is, it's always the triggers. I think back to my father, or what he never really talked about. His residential school, but he worked half a day, went to school half a day. But those things, and I know he had his triggers. That what he called, and his feelings of just how he acted or whatever, and how he was always. I don't know how to explain it. We stayed at the mouth of the harbor. We cleaned up the boat until it was spick and span before we went in to deliver. And then he always had to have, a shave, clean up, put on his best shirt, and then we tied up to the dock. And then it goes back to even when he was cooking fish in the house. When we had guests or whatever, he was going around fanning out because my view is that he was thinking of what he was taught when he was as a kid in residential school, that he was some sort of heathen, right? So those things have their effects And you can only imagine how they have triggers. And one of the things that is, it's always a trigger that might spark it off and just brings it back just instantly. But other than that, I had, I established some good relationships with some friends that I had back then. We all shared, the same sort of experience. Some of us, had, different experience, but we built those relationships, and out of that, I think that was only one component of many things that actually happened there. So, and that's it. I think, that's wrapped up in a nutshell, and I don't want to, prolong. Sometimes you get a bit emotional when you start bringing those things to the surface, and just one of those things that you only can sort of maybe have a short session. Maybe I need to have a chinwag with somebody other than the camera, and somebody that can actually sort of give me some closure on some of the issues that I have from residential school. Thank you.